discussion. I would like to start a sentence and ask you to end the sentence, however you feel it. And Elizabeth, I would like to start with you. A future positive city, if we consider that, it begins where?
Where care for humans and non-humans is at the core, because we're interdependent.
Yeah, I like that. Frans, welcome on stage. Great to have you. I will ask you another question. Yeah, not the same question for all of you. This would be too easy. The question for you is, true progress in urban systems becomes visible when?
All factors meet. That is the lowest factor, the low income factor, the lower, let's say, the social groups that don't have access to the digital, up to the higher. So a system, a city, a social environment, an ecosystem, which is a difficult term, where they all meet. Mm-hmm. That means it's very easy to generate visions of the future that are enormous. It is much more difficult to, let's say, envision futures for, let's say, very small, unnecessary or seemingly unimportant parts. Let's say the ants, the flies, mm-hmm. the butterflies. Mm-hmm. It's easy to picture how Saudi looks, but it's much more difficult to focus on the very small. And these have to come together.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for that viewpoint. Eduardo, to experiment with the future of cities means to?
Well, in a way, it means to be like human-centric even before you get started. And this is something that happens to us, maybe due to a weakness more than a strength, but like maybe 60% of the investments we are doing in Colonia are driven by the market. Like we pre-sold more than 400 apartments, and that's a big part of our sourcing of funds. So our buyers, our future citizens, are validating our product, our model, our city, our culture, and even through what they are buying apartments that come with hours of car sharing. They are buying apartments that come with e-parking lots instead of traditional parking lots. So they are validating their future life expectancy at the city by putting their money and by ratifying the business. No? So in a way, we are starting with the demand on our side, which is something that is at the end is a big strength that we have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. This was a long end of the sentence, but I value what you said. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Alexander, Europe will need bold urban experiments. I hope you agree. Like?
I think it's rather like we did, and we were brave enough 150 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
No, I think we need to restart to understand that we are genius and powerful, but at the moment we are not brave at all, not future brave. Okay.
That's a great starting point to enter the discussion. Great to have you all here on stage. And I hand over to Niklas. Niklas, what would you like to ask the round of experts we have with us?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think, so for me, it's very interesting to see what you said, when all factors meet. I think we have kind of a little bit of this in this panel discussion, right? We have people with so many different backgrounds, so many different visions and ideals on how we can go forward. And I liked a lot. So, Elizabeth, you said we try to facilitate and with our labs and have everything that the market cannot provide or doesn't pay for. And now, also you, Eduardo, you said, well, we do not want people to invest and to come only because of their interest, but because their friends are there. They move there together, and they create this community and this culture. And also, yeah, a long intro to the question on, and then maybe trying to, how is it possible to bridge those both worlds of, is it with your approach the bottom up, you think we go forward, or what role would you see do big projects play, like Colonia and and the other projects we saw in the.
Who should answer?
Okay, yeah, sorry, to the hybrid space lab participants, yeah?
Okay, I think what is very interesting and what I see in a lot of the examples is the tension between, let's say, very stable, long-term systems and instability. And somehow we're in a period in between. What is also very interesting, and I want to quote or just quickly mention a Dutch historian, Jan de Romein, who in the 30s pointed out that any thought or system that is far beyond, that is very innovative, will at some point suffer from this. And as we saw, and Elizabeth showed, this enormous acceleration we're into, it's not only about being forward, because we saw it with the German car industry, very stable, very sure, but the moment electrical mobility was introduced, they're nearly wiped away. So I think what is very interesting is this tension between instability and stability. I could also mention the Dutch invented in the 17th century the idea of the burger, the civil part of society. It was a counter move against what later became the king. And this attention, let's say that's the same example, a very small element in a huge system, thinking bottom up, the burger. That is how we developed democracy. That is also how the Dutch developed colonialism. So there are always two sides. And I think we will never, it's nearly impossible to come up with the best future solution, because 5 years later it will prove a complete disaster. So what makes it...
I can add to Frans, what he cited about this Dutch historian. There's a Dutch name for it. It means that if you're very quick and very front ahead and you do something, you might have big problems later. As an example, he brought Paris and London. London put gas lighting to its whole city, London. And Paris brought it only to its main streets. And later came electrical lighting, so Paris could put electrical lighting. So it's important to think of systems. For me, it was this resilient system or anti-fragile, yeah. Anti-fragile system. I think it's important when you think of systems to develop systems that have the flexibility and do not, be too quick in implementing something and making it too robust.
Isn't it a matter of adaptability?
Yeah, it's a matter of...
we talk a lot about agility in the context of future of work.
And also keeping things that are not functional yet there. So you have parts that are not functional that could perhaps later be very important in the further sort of development.
And in German context, allowing much, much more experimentation. Germany really suffers from, let's say, a stability crisis, you would say, not allowing instability, fragility. And this leads, these two factors, these last, fragility and instability, allow for experimentation. And this we need, at least in Germany, very much. The Dutch, if you compare the health systems between Germany and the Netherlands, I'm just using two, the one that is most innovative is the Dutch. But, on the other hand, my mother has no house doctor. And why is that? Because the innovative quality has become, as it were, also unstable. So providing for a group, my mother is completely digital able, but she's hard of hearing. How the hell can she contact a doctor only over the phone? So
you need both.
You need both. And how to do that, yeah. That's the big question we will face. That is the real question.
I like hearing you talking about experiments. I mean, I think it's not a question. We need more experimentation because we have so many options with technologies, with latest results and knowledge from research. And we need to build something new. But how can we really achieve that? Eduardo, you have this sandbox now under control. How do you start experiments that bring you further to the future?
It really drives you crazy. Look, we launched the first projects in Colonia 2 years ago. We started pre-selling apartments. And we had a big debate at that time because some of us didn't want to do underground parkings, and there were some that say you cannot fight against reality, you know, it's ridiculous not to do them, then there's going to be a collapse in parking, etc. So we said, what do we do? And we came to this idea. We have parking buildings that will be transformed in the future that serve a lot of their neighboring buildings for residential buildings and office space, etc. So we said, bingo, we have the solution. We are so innovative, creative. We're doing this. Tomorrow we transform them. And now we are about to start the first parking building, and I'm hesitating because autonomous cars are evolving so much that I say, maybe I finished that parking building and we don't even use it, you know, and we have to transform it before we start to use it. So technology is moving so fast that it really drives you crazy. So the most important thing is to remain flexible and to we were born on this culture of innovation, of transforming, of sandbox, of trying, and we have this virtue to be able to implement on real projects that are marketable projects, each one of the things we are doing, but still we are driving crazy. So it's really interesting moments.
So it stays a challenge.
Yeah, but it's like being in Disney, you know, like it's so interesting, like what we're living by building the city and trying to deal with all these transformations is so exciting.
I can imagine. Ali, what is your point on this? I think experimenting is also issue in your project.
I mean, I think you have a very good point about Germany and a lot of things. And as an architect and engineer, stability you only can have until it cracks. That's a fact. It's never forever, right? And it doesn't allow flexibility in itself. You know, it's stable. But then when the forces from outside are too strong, then we have nothing anymore because it's cracked. And that's something what we are, I would say, almost seeing now. And then there's the other thing, is what we intend a lot of times is following let's say, following the tool and following the technology, not thinking about what we want to have. So at the moment, we're all talking about, are we doing, and you guys as well, and everyone is talking about, we're doing a smart city. Or actually, I don't know what a smart city is, honestly. I mean, because smart, if you follow the progress where the word was coming from, it was actually coming from IBM guys, you know, when there was a time when they sold their laptop stuff and the hardware stuff, and they were thinking, okay, what are we going to do? Because we are concentrating on the mainframe computers, being able to calculate enormous research power and calculation power. And then they were thinking about, oh, it may be good that in a city where there will be a lot of data, we can sell the mainframe to the city, and that's the birth rate for the smart city. And we had this discussion in Fraunhofer almost 20 years ago about smart city, smart city, smart city. And when I was asking my research colleagues in all the different institutes, what is smart? And I said, no, we have this amazing sensor. I said, wow, this is great. So what can this sensor? No, you don't understand. It's so amazing. It's like so small, and you can do like everything with it. And I said, okay, that's great. What can we do with it? Well, you can maybe, I don't know, but you can pour it in the concrete, and then it's like in the concrete, and it gets the energy out of whatever, out of the air. I said, okay, so fantastic. So what can we do with it? And well, everything. I said, yeah, but give me an example. You can measure temperature. And I said, okay, perfect. And what are we going to do with it? Well, you can control the heating. And I said, wow, okay, that's very amazing, because this is called thermostat, and we have that since 50 years. It's maybe bigger. Okay, then we have this smart fridge. Oh, fantastic. What we can do with this smart fridge? You can do everything. Just imagine the fridge tells you when the milk gets sour. I said, oh, fantastic. I mean, I taste it and I know it's sour. Okay, so this is, you know, that means we are. This is not really creative. We are stuck in a world of engineers at one area and of lawyers at the other area, and then and then in between there's nothing. So the engineers try to invent new stuff. Some of them is needed, some of them is not needed, and the lawyers are trying to embed like a system around it, which makes you reliable. If the plane crashes, then who's responsible for it? And in this field, these are the frameworks actually where it's so hard to create creativity out of that, because when it comes to an idea, we should rather think, and that's how you started, Vanessa, like, what are we dreaming about the city of the future? What is our dream? What is my dream? What is your dream? What is the dream of someone in Africa? And the dream of someone in Africa is definitely a different dream than what we do have, right? So for our solutions, what we think at the moment is like, oh, we have to get rid of the parking system. It's probably not a problem in Africa at the moment. And the 15-minute city, because we are talking about the 15-minute city, is the most sustainable city, because it means like within 15 minutes you can reach public transportation everywhere. If you want to embed a 15-minute city in Saudi Arabia, you're just going to die, because you cannot walk in 45 degrees heat for 15 minutes. It's impossible. You should need to have a 2-minute city, and that's by mathematics not achievable, you know. So means when we talk to that, it's not we want to have a 15 minutes, it's like, oh, I want to have a walkable city in an area where it's too hot outside. It's a totally different thing. It's a totally different mindset, not coming with the first solution. And then the lawyer thing is also, don't look always for someone who made a mistake. Don't search for the responsible person. This is, sometimes I feel this is almost, it's so much, I don't know, it's almost religious, you know, like there's God and he's responsible for everything. So, okay, if you don't believe in this guy anymore, then someone else is responsible for our disaster at the end of the day. And I hate that. I mean, we are responsible every minute for what we're doing for our own future. Everyone at the same time. And the interaction is where it emerges something new out of that.
And actually, mistakes are part of the experiment.
So
Sorry?
You can't do experiments anymore. You cannot do experiments, that's a problem. This is, when you talk to, and maybe it's different in your area, I don't know, but when you talk to politicians in Europe, and I met lots of them, and we had a lot of beautiful discussions, and very, let's say, bold thinking in private with a beer. When it's not private anymore, all that boldness is gone. And I said, no, I need to be bold, and this is the people, and it's like just, it's not that democracy is enabling it, my feeling sometimes, and I like democracy, but it's like that people are afraid about democracy. At the moment, what we have is like people are afraid about the right-wing party. They are afraid, everyone is afraid of the next step, and that's dangerous. This is terrible.
I think that's a very interesting standpoint, and just to clarify, we are talking about the bold experiments, the big disruptive challenges that we have, and what I can see in many places and in many projects is incremental innovation. We just put one step further, one idea on top of what is already existing, but
True.
we are missing the real
True, and we did
innovation.
invent the big photovoltaic stuff here, and we've not been bold enough to keep it here and to build the largest, more gigantic PV fields ever. We were slugging on the small things, and that's no wonder why then Chinese were rolling it out in a mass production.
But
Frans.
I think it's not necessarily only about incremental. It can also be the opposite. And let me give you another comment I had is companies are usually pretty bad at predicting what will come. IBM, when they introduced the computer, calculated that they needed about 7 computers for the whole world. Yeah? When ASML is the company that builds the factories or the machines that produce the chips. When they started, a friend of us started this company, he asked his Philips directors in Eindhoven, can I have the money to build this factory? And the answer was, yes, you can, but do you really think you will ever make money with this company? Mm-hmm. It took him 40 years to build up the company to dwarf Philips completely. It is the biggest contributor to brutto national product in the Netherlands. So the experts were telling him, don't do it, it won't make money. He pursued the idea because he knew it was important. And that was one person with an incredible expertise. When we were asked to build a small park for the Humboldt Forum, we went, by a political party, we went out of the meeting laughing. And it took us 200-300 meters and looked at the top of a building where a lonely tree was growing to come up with the idea. So incremental, it would have been to make a small park and then slowly make it bigger. Mm-hmm. But to introduce this idea to the public, we needed a huge idea. Some of the ideas you show are also huge, are beyond imagination. So I think on one level, incremental, yes, to slowly move through the system. Equally, you need breakthrough ideas that are so big they seem completely ridiculous. And they will prove, some of these ideas will fail. A lot of our projects fail, but that is built into our system of working. And this failure, of course, doesn't pay. How can you build a company on failure? That's pretty difficult. But you need it. You need the courage to fail. Success is easy somehow. You know, with success you buy your big car, a big house, you have power, you can whatever. But failure is a much more interesting, I mean, we forget how important failure is.
True. I mean, I always would say, you know, if you just have the old Chancellor Olaf Scholz and he would sit there and would say, let's go to the moon. we build a rocket in 5 years' time to go to the moon, like Kennedy did, right? I think it's just impossible because everyone would like, even he wouldn't be able to say that anyway, but it's like, okay, let's go to the moon. And everyone would say, okay, what do you want to do on the moon? And it's like, I don't know, but we get stones from there. And it's like, okay, stones. Okay, what are we going to do with the stones? I don't know. So we would never do it. But if we would decide we go to the moon, as German or Europeans, then we said, okay, let's given the fact we would have made the decision, we go to the moon. We're going to have this rocket. And then we said, okay, well, how do people get it? Well, they fly with a big rocket and they circle around the moon, they land on the moon. Okay, how do they get back? Well, they go back in this little orbiter, and then they fire the rocket and they come back. Yeah, but what if this machine fails? Yeah, okay, then we have a spare one and a third one, right? So means at the end of the day, we're still thinking about the safety mechanisms, and probably the first two machines would fail entirely. If then still, it would be the most perfect, probably rocket on Earth, but 50 years later. That's a problem.
The goal didn't make sense at all to fly to the moon.
Exactly.
I agree. But what did make sense was a spin-off.
Exactly.
The integrated circuit with the chips.
And much more also the understanding of orbit, all what we have at the moment with GPS, everything comes from that understanding on how dealing with things.
Satellites.
Understanding of Earth. There's so much coming from it because someone was going beyond the horizon. And I think this is like this attitude, we try to go beyond the horizon because we want to see what is beyond the horizon. This is something what we're missing. It's like, it was always like that. I mean, when they were searching for the new world, people said, if you go beyond the horizon, you fell off the cliff. And these guys were still sitting around, and the others were just seeing and finding a new world. That's how it is at the moment. I think it always is like that. But at the moment, we are ruled by the guys who believe Earth is flat and we are falling off.
Before we leave Earth now, I would like to ask another question to Eduardo. We just heard that we need also failure, we need experiments, we need to test and trial, and this happens everywhere on the planet. So when you look at your project, what do you learn from other projects and how do you learn from it? I mean, what is the decision-making process for deciding this is an idea from NEOM project that we take for Uruguay, or this is an idea that we pretty much like and see it's working well at this place, but we cannot transfer it to our place for whatever reason. How do you manage this?
I like this panel a lot because this is probably the only panel where I'm the more down to earth, so it's great to be here. But to your question, we do a lot of benchmark. Of course, you cannot directly take experience from other similar projects or inspiring projects, because you need to adapt them to the reality in our project particularly. But we have a very nice opportunity in terms of the support we are getting from government. Most of the projects that one could dream of are typically impossible in many countries when you don't have even the time and focus from the authorities. Uruguay being so small, even in a national level, allows us to really think out of the box. We are actually working with the national government for a specific law for Colonia, which is a regulatory sandbox, where we will be able to implement in Colonia a lot of things that are not yet regulated by law and that are prohibited in the rest of the territory. So I would say that there's a lot that we can learn from other projects, on the good, on the bad, on avoiding the pioneer cost, which would be deadly in many cases for us. We are not a project that has the capacity to be making a lot of mistakes. So avoiding the pioneer cost for us is really important.
And do you invite other project heads from other parts of the world to for knowledge transfer?
Yeah, actually, that's a lot of what we have Fraunhofer support in the having them not only to consolidate the local and regional ecosystem, but also for them to bring us all that benchmark from other projects. And Fraunhofer's team is really good on adapting all those experiences to what we need in Colonia. No? So, yeah, big part of what we're doing in that sense comes from here, from Germany. No? So
okay, so that honor goes to the team.
Absolutely, we're very happy.
Yeah, thank you. Niklas, what is your question to the panel?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's very interesting for me to hear is how important and how central this flexibility idea is on any scale we talk about, right? So for big scale projects, you need to be bold and you need to, be able to adapt to, for example, when we don't have, when there will be self-driving cars, right? And so, but also on the very let's say, more localized level and within personal connections, you need to have open culture of, of saying what you need, saying what you want, in order to change something around you, right? When you not feel empowered to talk to your peers or to people around you, things. Yeah, you might get lonely, or what we heard in the lab of Hybrid Space Lab, right? So I think the flexibility, openness and flexibility is in all scales. Now my question would be, how can you incorporate, not fishing for compliments for Fraunhofer, but can you incorporate flexibility in a large project like Colonia? And to you, Alexander, how could you imagine you introduce flexibility, for example, in the line NEOM, on when things change, yeah?
Well, first of all, the line in itself, I mean, it's not our main architecture, that's what I'm saying, but the thing is that it's a form from outside, but inside it's super flexible, because it's clear that whatever you do, it's going to change, and new, let's say, new experience is evolving out of that, right? And we'll move on, specifically when we have a time which is changing so fast at the moment. I think that's pretty clear. I think it is what I found is it's very hard to step out of the silos, everyone. And we had a lot of discussion. So I would agree what you said earlier. We had in Fraunhofer, we had like 2000, I think around 2000, 2001, we had a very, very big conference in that time about autonomous driving, when it was just coming up and popping up of, like the first ideas when they tested it. And there was everyone was there from that field and arguing and so on. And then was the guy from Mercedes who said, autonomous driving will come never. All right. What I had to learn, talking to this guy afterwards, that he was saying, and he didn't say it like that, but he meant will never come in the next 20 years. Because for an autonomous guy, or a car guy, 10 years and 20 years looking into the future is like entirely unpredictable. Entirely unpredictable. If it comes to build a city, 20 years is nothing. It's nothing. So the problem what we're facing is when we're going to build something, whatever it is, every structure and infrastructure what we're going to build needs a lot of time, and maybe this technology is not existing. And one good example, what the Stuttgart guys know very well, is Stuttgart 21. Stuttgart 21 was built on the understanding that at that time, at this time introduced ICE train need to go only one direction because they had to have a locomotive in the front. So it cannot go inside and backwards outside. And this is why we built Stuttgart 21. This ICE train 1 is not existing any longer, and we have the trains going backwards and forwards at the same time. It's no problem. But we started based on this assumption to rebuild the entire city. We are not able to, we asked someone of the train guys and the automotive guys, and we take that for granted, but it's only this meaning in the silo. And it's true in that silo. It's not wrong. It's a true answer in that silo. But the interaction between the different silos is very hard to keep that. And creativity, is specifically when we're talking about cities, means we need to understand all the different silos. If it's health, if it's IT, if it's the centers guys, if the material guys, if the transportation guys. Everyone has something which is true, and sometimes we just have to combine it, but also ignore it.
Thanks a lot, Jan. So we have a comment by Frans.
Yeah. When students enter school, there are no silos. They simply move around, do whatever they want. This we should encourage. I think that silos you can break is a cultural problem. In Germany, they are much stronger than, for example, in the Netherlands. Mm-hmm. True. So it's a cultural problem. You can organize it in a way that, and for example, I would suggest early education to understand that they bring something, inert innovation that goes very deep. Mm-hmm. That's very good in silos. You don't want, let's say, other people telling you how to polish a lens. That you need to do in a vertical, in an inert innovation structure. On the other hand, you need extrovert innovation. So both you need at the same time. So I think it's always a question of balance. If the silos are very strong, like in Germany, it will be difficult to break through them. On the other hand, if they are very, let's say, nearly non-existent, like in the Netherlands, you also create another problem. The ASML, the company that built the chips, could have never built the machines for the chips, could never have built the machines without the lenses of Zeiss. Zeiss lenses were so precise and keep on going deeper into this precision. Without them, it would have never been possible. And that's a good example. You need both at the same time.
I agree.
It's not one or the other. It's not destroying one or the other. It's both at the same time.
Elizabeth,
one of the programs we're doing in Hybrid Space Lab is In Between Institute. You have wonderful institutes, very specialized, wonderful experts, etc., but you have very little communication between them. Mm-hmm. And I think that is also very specific for Germany. Mm-hmm. And that's something you have to break. I mean, with workshops, we work a lot of workshops and get very different people in. It's not about, getting the best solution out, but it's about getting new ideas, breaking actually the sort of, mental boxes we have. And we think that there also culture is very important. It's not only technology.
Mm. I think you just said the word lenses. It's about understanding different viewpoints, right? Understanding opinions from people coming from very different backgrounds. And I think we have to be open-minded in innovative projects and involve as much people as possible, right?
It has both sides. I mean, you need diversity because then you get a more inclusive situation. I don't know where the microphone is. Oh, I've lost it.
Don't mix it. Okay.
So you need, if you want to be inclusive, you need diversity. That's very important because people have different needs. Women, men, older people, younger people, children, you have to have this very different views. And on the other hand, you need people that are outsiders because innovation is exactly that. Most of the innovation that is different, but most of the innovation is putting two things that do not belong together. Mm-hmm. and then you create a new synapses, and then things develop. So I would not do AI people on their own, I don't know them on their own, I would put them together and put also outsiders inside. I think that's the most interesting thing, to break actually the sort of mono-thinking institutions many times have.
But I also would say what is very important, and then there's another saying what I like from Saint-Exupéry, the Little Prince, when he said, if you want to build a boat, don't teach the people how to use the tools, make them loving the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah? And at the moment this is lacking, all that, right? If you have no idea about a beautiful future, but you can use a hammer, I mean, come on, I mean, of course, we'll never be able to ship
And that has the element of the goal, but it also has the element of the desirable future.
You said something which really made me wonder. You said it was a crisis, it was a good time to introduce something new. So me being German, being from this area here, automotive industry, and so on and so forth, my impression is here, the automotive industry is in a crisis and everybody is more looking into how we want to have the good old times back. They are obviously, and it's my impression, don't know whether it is, they are not really open to something really new. So I would be very much interested whether you think this is a cultural Uruguayan thing, or how you communicate it, how you planted this positive seed that they said, okay, we are in deep shit anyway, so yeah, let's try something new. Don't necessarily look back what we had and where we were great and oh, we want to have this back. Now we go into something, we set sails to go into the new world.
It's a very good question. I think it helped us as a kicking point, because the community in all its layers was a lot more open to hear. And we didn't get like the first resistance, which is typically emotional, and then you cannot get back from there. Because once you have someone in the society talking against you and arguing against you and building his own arguments and reinforcing his own arguments, and you will have an enemy forever. So I think, although it helped a lot for the early initial conversations, like we were talking about, and we are going to implement blockchain for a lot of governance and relationship between the communities, everything that we can solve from the private sector, we will try to accommodate so we can have an open votes and conversations through the blockchain with the citizens. Imagine the Uruguayan officers listening us in the media talking about that we were going to implement a different governance, and they were like, the Argentinians will come to try to conquer us through the blockchain, it was so, but again, conversation, I might have had 40 town halls with open neighbors coming, and we were always open to everybody, open book. This is a project for the community. And one very important thing. Sorry, I think we are passing time, but very quick.
We are fine.
When we started Colonia, a lot of real estate developers and a lot of people told me, no, you have to start very small and start, nobody noticing that you are starting to build this thing, And I was like, this is a decision for my life. If the community doesn't want what we want to do, let's know it now, and we don't even get started. So we went with these 60 pages to the legislature, telling them that we have this brilliant idea to change their city, double or triple their population, create a Rio de la Plata city combined with Buenos Aires. We tell them everything on this first script. So it was a shock initially, but that's what now created this incredible dialogue of trust, a relationship of trust with all the community. So I think To your question, I think both things are important. It's important to have the crazy entrepreneur that goes and brings something new. It's fertile soil to have some kind of crisis. It always is for a change. But then there's a long way to go and a lot of more stuff to be done.
Maybe a short answer to the question. Churchill said it. Don't waste a good crisis. So the best thing for any company, and this is the same that the founder of ASML said, if you think things are going very well in your company, your whatever, start to really worry. So the main thing to say is, don't waste the crisis. It's an opportunity.
I 100% agree with you, Prof. That's also why I'm here. Because we are obviously seeing that there are chances and opportunities in these multiple crises we are all around the world. It's just I'm also having similar thoughts, probably like Alexander Rieck. It's like when I look into Germany, it's like there is always a problem, and there is no opportunity. There is always a problem, and if there is no problem, then there is processes, authorities, and so on and so forth, which makes it. I probably you also, because you are very much obviously active in Saudi Arabia. I've never been to many other countries in the world, but never Saudi Arabia. But I could imagine it's a little bit like China. They basically say, "Man, this is what we do. They do it. That's it." Naturally, this has also some negative effects, but here in Germany, or probably all over Europe, it's a little bit different. Yeah? Then things like this happen with Stuttgart 21. We basically build something which at the time we start to build is already outdated. That's what we said yesterday. In 50 years we have the greatest rocket ever, but nobody needs it. So I fully agree with what you say. Yeah? Don't miss the opportunity.
So, and again, going back to what Jan Romein said, the Dutch historian, the comment on, let's say, when you're at the front of something, remember, a new technology will come, a next crisis will come, and then you will be at the back. So you have to, it's very difficult, that's for sure. I mean, it's an easy answer to say, don't waste a good crisis, but what do you do? Shoot yourself in the foot? No.
But let us be a little bit more concrete on the Stuttgart area at the moment. What I think and believe, and like being an architecture firm, trying to hiring the best talents for the past many years, it was so hard to get people, even when they are always coming from outside, very international office in Stuttgart, because they were all absorbed by Mercedes for a lot of more money than I ever could pay, right? And of course, if you earn a lot of money with already a product, why should you change it? I mean, it's a running business, right? There's no need. And if you make a little experiment here, no, it's not selling very well, let's go back. Here, no, it's risky, let's go back. I mean, that's exactly what's happening at the moment with the e-cars, right? Oh, it's a risky, let's go back. And it's fully understandable. It's fully understandable, I would say so. On the other side, I believe this is not sustainable towards the future, right? As a business place, we know that's going to crash at some point. But on the other side, we have amazing knowledge in that research in the region. We have amazing skilled people in that region. We have people, let's say, dedicated, probably around, and I would say I can tell that because I was in a lot of places. It's within the best mechatronics ever, in all the different places. They're super well. Do these super well-trained mechatronic people need to build cars? Probably not. So where can they use the knowledge of mechatronics? Lots of people would say mechatronics is not needed anymore. But my answer on that is AI, and I was talking a lot about AI. I was talking about the Stargate. Everyone was talking about AI. At the end, it's like the sensor I was said in my example. AI by itself can't do anything. AI intelligent or not intelligent, it helps you on whatever, it's an advice or not, and it writes a lot of nice poems and so on. But when it comes into the real life, it needs something out of mechatronics, you know. And this is something what we call robots by any means. And the world of robots is just ahead of us. It's starting like nothing, and it's starting now. And it's seen already in China, and it's seen already in Saudi Arabia. We are just afraid about that. And that's the new paradigm for that region. This is because we know how to do that. We know how to do that, then no one else knows how to do that. And we have all the capacities, all the competence on us. For me, this is the perfect region for that. We just have to get rid of these fucking cars. Sorry.
And these are the closing words already. Thank you so much. Yeah, we are at the end of the session now. What we see is no matter how strong is the crisis affecting us, we just need bolder and bigger experiments, and we all have to learn how to make these experiments and result in real innovation and progress. And I think we could already learn a lot from your contributions. The experiment will stay with us for the upcoming years. As a researcher, I embrace the situation. So for now, thank you very much for joining us on stage and sharing your viewpoints and your knowledge here with our audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.